This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
We're back. It's the Wrestling Perspective. 2-week hiatus is over because we're going on another week hiatus next week. But we're back. Dennis Farrell, me, and my buddy, my friend, Petey Williams.
How's she going, eh?
Going good. Listen, next week is the 4th of July. We're taking that week off, even though we took 2 weeks off. I've been busy. You've been busy. But we're back.
Yeah, we're back. And, next week, Canada Day, too, July 1st. Don't forget to mention that for us Canadians.
Canada Day.
Canada Day.
Canadian. So what?
Anyways,
a lot of stuff. We have a Ask Petey show coming up for you tonight. I've got Pete. I tweeted it out last week. I'm gonna say 20 questions for you.
20 questions.
20 or so questions. Before we get into that, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the Will Ospreay, the Seth Rollins internet stuff going on.
Not like I probably don't know the recent thing, but I know. Well, as far as I know, Will says, "Oh, I'm awesome, great athlete, whatever. I'm the best wrestler," and because Seth said that they have the best wrestling in WWE, and then said, we have Ricochet, who's a better version of you, that kind of thing.
Right.
Kind of there. Okay.
And I'm going to recap it for the fans and go down. I've got a great article off of SB Nation that I'm going to read here in a second. But I got to say, before we get into this talk, that it's refreshing because WWE has been the big boy on the block for years and years and years, 10, 12, 20 years. And over the last 2 years, with the rise of AEW and independent wrestling, a lot of shots. Like they are getting attacked from all angles. The rumors everybody wants off. The ship is sinking. AEW is going to crush them. But for me, it is kind of refreshing to see WWE talent openly defend its product, and it's something you haven't seen from the WWE and its talent in years.
It's interesting because you never really see that. They've never really had to defend their product in the past. And you always see it like Ring of Honor and like Impact and all other companies. They do that. That's what they do. They defend their product. But you never really see WWE do it. So it's interesting they're doing that. And not only that, their world champion is doing it, or universal champion, whatever it is. But there's so much good talent out there. I remember when I first met Will, it was in England, and then I think like the next week I wrestled him in Germany, and man, he is a talent. He's not a joke. But I think you're going to see a lot more of that. People, whatever company you work for, as you should defend your own product. I mean, you work there. You wouldn't sit there and go, "Oh, I hate working here," or whatever. If you work for like a car dealership or wherever you would work, you wouldn't do that to your company. You'd want people to come and invest because it makes you more money and makes you more successful.
And you know what? Let me say this about internet rumors, guys. I get that it's a cool thing to do to want to pretend that your wrestler really, really, really wants to go out there and be the best at some other company or organization. But deep down inside, it comes to money. Do you know why? And people can argue with me all day long about Jinder Mahal and Mike Bennett re-signing with WWE because AEW or somebody else doesn't want them. But deep down inside, when it comes down to it, I'd say 95 to 99% of the wrestlers will re-sign with or sign with the highest paid place because pool liners, heaters, new houses, cars, that stuff costs money. Wrestling good matches is great and can fulfill you personally, but if you don't have the financial backing, you can't do that.
I want to disagree with you on that one. I don't think that people like wrestlers, just because I've experienced it firsthand, I don't think wrestlers would be like, "Oh, I'll just go where the money is." Because sometimes it's more than that. Like back in the TNA days when like the Kurt Angles came over and the Christian Cage and whoever, the list goes on and on. They weren't getting paid more. Like they if they stayed with WWE, they could have made more money. I mean, they would have had to work more and stuff like that. But sometimes it's it's better because you want something more. Like maybe you want more days off, or maybe you want more, creative input in your character. Everybody has something different. So I have to disagree with you about the money aspect.
Would you say, let's put a percentage on this, because I said 95%. Would you say?
Oh, that's way too high, I would say.
What would your guess be?
I would say that's tough, because I know a lot of guys on the indies right now not making much would be like, man, I'll sign anywhere for more money. So that's kind of unfair.
Well, we're not talking about them. Let's just, and I don't want to get into the signed talent versus unsigned talent. It's stupid. But let's assume wrestlers wrestling for major companies right now.
Okay. I would say maybe 70%.
That's still passing.
And it might be lower. I mean, that's tough to put a number on it, but I definitely don't think it's 95%. If that was the case, then people would stay miserable and not leave anywhere and all that kind of stuff.
Well, here's what launched it. Essentially, Seth Rollins, tweeted out, doubling down, best pro wrestling on the planet. See that cruiserweight triple threat, and that's just one night, one match among many. Find anyone alive that does what I do as well as I do it, and as often as I do it, you can't. And then a bunch of hashtags. I'm not going to go. Will chimes in and kind of, retweets and then comments on it, I'm alive. That's all he says, right? Seth comes back and says, I'm sorry, little guy. We already have a better version of you, and he just won his first U.S. title tonight. Congrats, Ricochet. Keep working hard, though, buddy. Well, wow, right? Yeah.
I mean, he said it right there. I mean, they're both great talents. I've never wrestled Ricochet, so I can't, attest for it, but from just what I see, both great talents. They've wrestled each other numerous times. And Seth, he's right, man. Like, for the guy that's like the world champion of the company, he could do all the cruiserweight stuff. And he can, and he's strong too. Like, I know he does like CrossFit and all that stuff. He's on top as he should be. I mean, I don't know whose side to take on this one. I really don't, Dennis.
Well, Will replied with a meme that says, "Oh, you're hard." Then he comes back and he says, "Fun fact of the day, Will Ospreay has wrestled more matches in 2019 than Seth Rollins. Catch up, little guy with a kissy heart." That was from Will.
Oh.
And now, yes?
I mean, how do you even keep track? I guess they do have a counter, like on the internet or whatever, to keep track of everybody's, But I mean, yeah, go on, Dennis. Go on.
Then Seth,
right.
then Seth decides to clap back, as the young kids would say. I mean, if you want to talk numbers, we can compare bank accounts too. Boom. That's me adding the boom. Drop the mic right there. Wow. And then he adds P.S. That's counting a month off with a broken back. Buddy, thumbs up.
Yeah, so then it comes. So, I mean, probably because in the way that went, he probably thought that he wrestles more than him, which, Will probably wrestles more than Seth.
Kind of has to.
Say. Yeah. But then what else do you throw in there? You're like, oh, I make more money than you. I mean, is that what I mean, I don't know. I think it's childish that you do that kind of stuff. Will could reply back like, yeah, but, I'm not seeking money, all that kind of stuff. The things that we just talked about. Like, he gets so much more freedom not being, he can wrestle for multiple companies if he wants to.
Well, here's Will's response. You love adding stuff, don't you? I mean, the original question was, find anyone else alive who does what I do as well as I do it and as often as I do it. No talk of money, no talk of Ricochet. You said anyone. Here I am. That, let's see here. And something about being just as good. I hope your back heals up.
Oh, man. I love Twitter feuds. I mean, is this... It reminds me of high school, Dennis. Like, it really does.
Well, here's more. Here's more. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, do it.
Then Baron Corbin chimes in. More important fact, Baron Corbin has wrestled more matches in 2019 than Will Ospreay. Another fact, I don't actually know who you are. I just wanted to be a part of this conversation.
Wow. Good for him.
Will's response?
That's good.
Now, Will's response is, no wonder Raw sucks.
Oh, man. Okay. I mean, that's that. Is that the end of it, or is there more?
I think Jericho chimed in a little bit. Jericho says, Will's actually taller and bigger than you. Just saying, devil's advocate.
Will's taller and bigger than who?
Seth Rollins.
No, he's not, but okay.
There we go. So that's kind of it. And then Will turns it into a shirt, and of course, is buy my little guy shirt.
Yeah, I mean, you got to plug yourself. Okay, yeah, that's great. I love it. I love this drama. So now people are gonna be talking and being like, "Ooh, is Will gonna go to, or is Seth gonna go?" and all this kind of stuff. Oh, I love it. And Baron Corbin's awesome. I mean, I don't even know who you are, and I wrestled more matches than you.
Have you ever had a Twitter feud?
Yeah, I don't think so. Because I mean, I don't like if somebody says something bad, I'm like, why am I going to waste my time? Like, it's pretty much you're having an argument in front of other people, like just for show. Like I've had private DMs, not feuds, but conversations. But I'm like, this is stuff other people don't have to know. Like, why am I doing this? Or if I do have a Twitter feud, it's obviously fake or just like put on, like just to get a rise out of people, whatever the case. So no, that's totally not me. But maybe I should start calling people out on Twitter. I don't know. Maybe it's time for a change.
Well, let's get into some fan questions. There's other wrestling stuff. We can either get to it if we have time, if not. But it was important for me to get to the fan interactions. So, are you ready to start talking about fans?
Yeah, let's talk about fans.
All right, this first question, let me pull up my email here, comes from Robbie. Robbie wants to know, what is the most awkward fan interaction you've had?
Oh, man, let's see. Most awkward fan interaction I've ever had. I don't know if this is the most awkward, but this came to mind. So back in the TNA days, when we first started our house shows, we were teaming up with Hermie Sadler, who's a race car driver. And it was like in conjunction with him pretty much. And then we had a show in Connecticut that was supposed to go on, and somehow it got shut down. We were thinking that WWE had something to do with it. They said something about the fire code or whatever. Whatever the case was. So it was scheduled, and then when we got there, it shut down. Right before we got there, I was at Subway, and there was these fans there, and they recognized me, and they were like, "Oh, let me pay for your sandwich," all that kind of stuff. And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." And I thanked them and stuff like that. So then after that happens, you feel obligated that you have to spend time with them, and that's why I don't like. I'll spend time with fans, but like now I feel obligated. I like to be able to walk away whenever I can, especially if I have to do something. So then the road was blocked off to the arena by police officers, like lights and sirens and all that, or just lights, not sirens. And that group of people that bought me Subway, they snuck in through the woods or something. And I was like, how'd you guys get here? And because I was like just standing outside, and they said, we snuck in through the woods. We wanted to talk to you. So now I felt obligated, and I had to talk to them for an hour. And I think they could kind of tell that, I was kind of like, all right, what do we talk about now? We've already hit on everything. And then one of them actually said, don't feel obligated to stand out here and talk to us. I was like, okay, man, thanks. I guess go back out through the woods that you came so you don't run into the cops. See ya.
That's
but
great.
that was kind of awkward.
That's great. And by the way, if you ever have a question for Wrestling Perspective, go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. There's a contact us form there. You can do that, or email us at WrestlingPerspective@gmail.com. We'll go through the advertising and ads here a little bit later, but I definitely wanted to get to these questions because we have a limited time tonight. This one comes from Billy Michael. Billy wants to know, I see you tweet about others using the Canadian Destroyer. Have you ever had someone confront you about not being happy that they've used your move? ?
So has anybody ever confronted me
about you not being happy that they used it.
No, that's the weird part. Nobody has, like, there's people, obviously I see it like on the internet and stuff, and then when I come face to face with that person, they say nothing about it, like absolutely nothing. It's almost like they're afraid, like I'm gonna do something, but I know in the back of their mind they're avoiding it because they know, they did my move or whatever. But no, nobody's ever said anything to me at all. Nothing.
I think the closest,
it's kind of weird.
I think the closest we came was having, what's her name? Who did you give the pass to be able to use the Canadian Destroyer to?
Oh, Chelsea Green?
Yeah, Chelsea Green, when she did it one time, and she blocked me when I tagged you in the post. And then
I remember that.
And then we had her on the show, and I explained to her, listen, I'm not a troll. And then she unblocks me, and then we presented her with the first ever Petey Williams Acceptance Award. That's what I think we're going to call it.
Or did I say blessing? The blessing? I don't know.
Oh, the Petey Williams
call it
blessing.
Because blessing, that's something like, that's like a God thing or whatever. I don't bless people, but okay.
But we got to start thinking, who's this year's recipient? Because we're coming up on that.
Yeah, I think we are. I'll have to, I guess, search the internet for Canadian Destroyers and see who gets the blessing this year.
I think one of the biggest parts of the blessing is, A, they have to do it right at the right moment, and B, willing to come on the show to accept it.
To accept the reward.
Yeah, okay. We're not taking any video acceptance awards.
No, I can't do that. You have to actually be there to accept it.
Let's see here. This one comes from Amy. Amy wants to know, have you ever had to take anyone out aside, sit them down, and talk about work ethic or attitude?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get too much into this, but yeah, I definitely had to do that. Man, I just don't want to get into that question, but it does happen.
Okay.
And, only once I blew up at somebody because he just, it felt like he went into business for himself. And I was pretty upset about it. But then I walked away, and then another veteran type wrestler actually blew up at him too and said he's absolutely right, when I wasn't there and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've had to do that, and I've had to do it recently in Impact. I'm not going to name any names, but yeah, I mean, definitely there's a certain type of etiquette and behavior that you don't want to get. You don't want to get into that type of behavior, just because I could see myself in my younger days, when I was 23, 24, me getting that behavior, and I had to put myself in check and be like, whoa, this isn't the person I want to become. And I see a lot of people doing that kind of stuff.
Let me ask you a side question from me based on the question that was asked here. How many times have you had to do this, and who the person in question kind of turned it around, versus how many times you said this, it rolled off their back and they continued to be whatever they were?
I mean, when I was asked that question, two popped into my head almost instantly. And the one guy definitely, it didn't roll off his back because he totally understood what I was saying. And then another one, I had a good conversation with him for probably 20 or 30 minutes, not just talking about attitude and stuff like that. And, yeah, he's doing well now. And I think it did sink in.
All right. This one comes from, let's see here, Chris. Chris wants to know, if you could pick one guy on the Impact roster right now to tag with, who would it be?
Does that have to be a guy or could it be girl?
I don't know. One person.
Well, I would obviously tag with Jordan Grace because I have my King of Trios match coming up with her and Scott Steiner. So I would like to do something related to that. As for a male, I would say, oh man, that's a good question. Michael Elgin, because he's Canadian as well.
All right. Glenn wants to know, how much creative freedom does talent have in Impact?
Okay, now that's a good question because there's different levels of freedom, I would say. For example, I'll just give you like my example when I'm an agent. So when I'm agenting the match, I let them know the times and all that kind of stuff that they have. But I allow them. I'm like, if there's something I specifically need in there, I'll let them do that, or I'll tell them that. But if not, I'll pretty much let them do whatever. They come up with whatever they want. But I have them run it by me just in case, like it's. We're not allowed to do it, or it's something similar that's happening in another match and all that kind of stuff. And like, I always ask talent too. I'm like, hey, give me like, if you have storyline ideas, not going to say I'm going to use it 100%, but give us ideas. Like, I'm okay with that because then that, even if we don't take that idea, it might evolve into a different type of idea. So there, I would say there's a lot of creative freedom happening in Impact.
All right. Let's see here. Joshua wants to know, have you ever thought about not using the Canadian Destroyer?
Oh, yeah. Earlier on in my career, I didn't want to be like considered like a one-move wonder, like a one-hit wonder. So earlier on in my career when I had it, everybody was just like sitting there waiting for me to do the Canadian Destroyer at the end of my match. And it was like, so and it was frustrating for me. But then I realized how to use it to my advantage. And that's when, if you ever watch my matches, we've talked about this before on the podcast, like I'll go for it multiple times. Like I learned how to utilize that tool that I had. And that's my problem with like a lot of other people utilizing the move. I'm like, they don't know how to effectively utilize it. If they knew how to utilize it, it's great. And remember we did that interview with Joey Ryan, how he like always teases the, what's it called? The dick flip and all this kind of stuff. Like it's a buildup. Like that's what the people wait for. Like that's what people want, to be on that roller coaster ride, that emotion and everything. So yeah, there was a time where I thought like, I'm not going to use it, but now it's just, it's just my part of my match structure now.
This comes from Anthony. I really enjoy the podcast, but Dennis is an asshat. Have you ever thought about doing a podcast without him?
No, never. Next question.
Aww.
Let's not get sentimental about this. Next question.
Chris,
so remember that one time I did Joe Pizza what's his name?
Yeah, he did our podcast because I was gone, and you did it with him.
And it's a different flow. I like Joe and stuff like that, but you can tell like. But to answer your question, no, never.
Well, that makes me feel better knowing that I'm not on the hot seat right now, like perform.
No. You could probably poop the bed and we'd still probably be doing this podcast.
Yeah, because we're the only friends we have.
Yeah, exactly.
The smell of desperation. Gotta love it. Trevor wants to know, do you think you could be a manager? And if so, do you think you could help get them over?
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, you don't need to do it in a manager role. You could do it in a wrestler role, and that's the things that's kind of my role in Impact right now, trying to get the younger talent over and stuff. Hence like the mini feud I had with Ace Austin. It's about getting newer talent over and stuff. But yeah, as a manager, I mean, heck, what if we did another Team Canada and I was the manager of the new Team Canada?
That'd be something. I mean, you're not wrestling, so you might as well do something.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Brad wants to know, as wrestling has evolved over the last 10 years, has the psychology of in-ring work changed?
I would say, yeah. Like, back in the day, prior to me starting wrestling, you lock up, you grab a headlock, right? And then, usually like we call it the international spot, and everybody knows it. Like, you lock up, headlock, you shoot the guy off, tackle, drop down, hip toss. That's called the international. Nowadays, when you see that on TV, it happens within like 5 to 10 seconds. Back in the day, like that would be a minute-long spot because you would work the head and then not be able to get a headlock. And then, and the fans are right there with you. It's like, oh, he's going to go to that headlock. Nope. He pulled the guy's hair. He wrenched him back in. Then he did the tackle, and then maybe he didn't get a drop down yet. And then finally it pays off with the big hip toss and stuff. Now people are just throwing away that spot. So, yeah, psychology has changed a lot, even when I started to now, And we talked about this before, even with the Canadian Destroyer, just me trying to get people to willingly take that move. It was like not a nightmare, but like it was tough because people are like, wait, you want me to do what? It was just unheard of. Now it's like, oh, you could do everybody could do a Canadian Destroyer now. It's like it's like an arm drag now or a hip toss. So yeah, psychology has definitely changed, I would say, a lot.
Vic wants to know, what's the worst as far as safety indie show that you've been on?
I don't know. That's such a broad question. Like working somebody that's unsafe okay, I got it. The Gathering of the Juggalos. I mean, prior to me going out to the ring, I saw Rudy Charles, who's now, I don't think he's a referee for WWE now, but he doesn't go by the name Rudy Charles, but he comes to the back after reffing the match at the Gathering, and he's just covered in blood all on his face. And I was like, what happened? Somebody threw a beer bottle or like a glass bottle, and it hit him in the head. I think they were trying to throw it at a wrestler, and they ducked, and it hit him in the head. So then I was like, oh, Jesus, because we were doing like a TNA versus JCW kind of angle. And the main event was supposed to be me and D-Ray 3000, if anybody remembers him, against ICP. And it ended up not being a match. It was a wash, like a big schmoz at the end. But we go out there, and then Jeff Jarrett was out there too, and he's just like cutting a pro, and all the fans were hating him and stuff. And I'm like sitting there, like just scanning the crowd. I'm not even in character, just trying to avoid any glass bottles getting thrown at me. So that was probably the most unsafe thing I've ever been involved in.
All right. Eddie wants to know, hey, Petey, I heard the jokes that you and Dennis make on the podcast about not being on Impact, Twitch, or any apps. Why do you think that's the case? That's a real question, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Because Impact probably hates you, Dennis. I mean, I don't know. They love me. I'm there. No.
I think you're right about that.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we have to be more comedy and write our material. I don't know.
Zinger.
Yeah, right. Maybe we should get like a rim shot going on in here, like after every joke, so people know when to laugh, or maybe they think we're too buddy and we don't like not contradict, but like having conflicting thoughts or anything.
I totally disagree with you.
Know. No, you have to agree with me though.
I totally agree with you.
And then insert rim shot there. See what we just did there?
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't.
Alan wants to know, what's the worst town you wrestled in and why? You got to answer this. No, don't ride the fence on this. You're a fence rider.
Where's Alan? Where's Alan from?
I don't know.
Okay, well, his town is probably the worst town I wrestled in.
Come on, there's got to be a town you just don't like to wrestle in.
Let's see.
Pittsburgh?
No, I like Pittsburgh.
Kentucky.
Obviously, my favorite is Canada.
Right.
It's obvious.
I don't think Canada's a town.
No, but I mean, places in Canada. I don't know, Dennis. You know what a tough town is?
What?
Probably, I don't want to say a town, but like the California area. I know that's a state, but like PWG, that was always a tough place because when I used to wrestle there, it was like they almost like, yeah, they liked good wrestling, but it's almost like they liked like Joey Ryan's dick flip. Like that would have been like awesome there, like something out of the ordinary you don't see in everyday wrestling and stuff like that. And I'm like a wrestler, like that's what I do, and I don't usually do like stuff like that. But in PWG, they ate that kind of stuff up, like stuff that you don't see on regular wrestling TV shows and stuff. So that was always a tough town for me to wrestle in because I'm like, well, I just want to go out there and wrestle. I don't want to have to, like do ridiculous stuff. But I mean, it helped me though. It helped me like kind of broaden my horizons, like to try different things and all that kind of stuff. And I did, but like, I'm like, it just felt so awkward to me. Like it really did. Cause I'm like, this isn't wrestling. This is just like, a goofy comedy act or whatever, but they loved that there. And, that was a tough town. I wouldn't say it was the worst town I wrestled in. So I guess I'm riding the fence on this one.
Way to go. I'm not shocked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, some of these questions are a bit older. I debated about just asking you this, but Sam wants to know. Seems like every week I watch Impact Wrestling on the Pursuit Network, and it turns out to be a replay of Impact. Do you know why they're running reruns? They fixed that, right?
I don't know if they're going to they may have fixed it. I don't know. I'm just hoping that people watch it on Twitch and they don't have to worry about Pursuit. I mean, I'm just being honest here. If you want to watch the show, watch it on Twitch. We got it covered there.
All right. This one comes from Ethan. Ethan wants to know, do you think wrestling is bigger now than at the height of the Attitude Era?
No.
Really?
I don't think so.
I'm going to disagree with you.
No, because, and this is why. I have a lot of acquaintances and friends. I call them more acquaintances, because Dennis, because you're my friend, man.
Thanks.
They know what wrestling is. They're non-wrestling fans. Okay, let's put that out there. They know what wrestling is, and they always say to me, "Man, I haven't watched it since and they'll mention like Stone Cold or The Rock, the Attitude Era type of thing, and that's when everybody watched it. That's just when everybody watched it. I mean, if you say something about wrestling, that's what everybody refers back to. So now, it's popular because there's social media and stuff like that, and it just seems like more people are involved. If there was social media back in the Attitude Era, it would have been even more social media stuff going on than there is now. So that's why I think that it was more popular back then. I really do.
I guess here's where I would disagree.
Independent wrestling definitely is more popular now than it's been back in the Attitude Era.
Well, that's where one of my defenses. Sure, the Attitude Era had the biggest stars, but I think if you overall look at ratings, numbers, and not just WWE, but as you go down the line of different wrestling organizations from big to small and then into the indies, I think overall the wrestling scene is bigger because there are more houses being full, and probably even look at the financials. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, independent wrestlers are making more money today than they ever have in the industry of wrestling, right?
Yes, because how it works now. So when you worked indies back when I first started, the only way you could really get it, I remember I was on VHS tapes, Smart Mark Video and stuff, filming IWA Mid-South. That's how it was. Nowadays, everybody can have a TV show or a cable access show or just stream it on iPay-per-view. There's just so much more access now. So that's why it's more popular in that aspect. But, money-wise, so people can get their names out, guys let's say, Will Ospreay, he was able to market himself and all that kind of stuff and get out there, and make more money that way. So people I don't want to promoters or whatever, they look at his GIF or his whatever he posted online, they'll be like, oh man, I need that guy on my show, and they're going to pay him bank, right?
Okay.
There was none of that when I first started. So, man, it makes me wonder, where would I have been if the Canadian Destroyer was a GIF back in 2003?
Wow. No, you wouldn't be here with me. You would be a lot cooler.
But no, probably less cooler.
I don't know. Jeremy wants to know, who's the biggest celebrity, wrestler, or athlete to tell you that they are a fan of yours? That's a good question.
Yeah. Wrestler, star, or athlete?
Yes. Who's the biggest person, I guess popularity-wise, to kind of get excited to meet you?
To me, it may not be to most people, but to me it was because, Billy Corgan, okay? Because I remember when I was 11 years old getting, the CD, I was in 6th grade and he had the Siamese Dream CD. And I remember I loved Smashing Pumpkins at the time. And then when I met him and he's like, oh, I'm a big fan. I'm like, dude, I'm a big fan of yours. This is great how it works out. So to me, that was really surreal because I'm like, I grew up listening to his music and stuff. And now, and played a song like that. That was part of my inspiration for guitar too. Like when I picked up my guitar, I'm like, oh, I want to learn how to play Sheriff Rock and Today and all his other songs and stuff. So that was pretty cool.
If anybody knows him, can you see if he'll come on our podcast? Anyways, cheap plug. Logan wants to know, will you keep wrestling if/when you cannot do a Canadian Destroyer?
No. Just, I mean, if it's gotten to that point where I can't do that, that means my hips are shot and I'm not going to destroy my body anymore. So that's pretty easy.
That's a good one. Okay. Tony wants to know, would you ever consider leaving Impact for another wrestling job? I don't think you have to worry about that.
Would I ever do that? No. I would say no. I mean, one thing that's kind of dead in wrestling now that I still take a lot of pride in is loyalty. I mean, one person I'm very loyal to is Scott D'Amore. There's a few people in this world that I'm very loyal to, and
we love you,
he's
Scott.
one of them. So, yeah. So, Scott D'Amore, I'll always be loyal to him. Like if you were to leave and go to a different company, I'd probably follow Scott just because that's how loyalty means a lot to me. If somebody's loyal to me, I respect that because I know what it is to be loyal to somebody.
All right. Scotty wants to know, every week I listen to the show, and every week Dennis acts like he knows how to book something, and every week it seems like you pat the poor bastard on the back and act like he has a clue. How stupid is he really, Petey?
Man, this guy sees right through me. Who is this, Scotty?
Yeah.
Man.
Probably D'Amore.
No, I know. Hey, Scotty, Dennis is not stupid. He just... sometimes his ideas just wouldn't work, man. And I just go, yeah, that sounds good, and yeah. That's it.
Wow.
No, but you have a lot of...
Wow.
Hey, let's not forget who named the cross jacket, Killer Cross's finishing move. It was you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have a lot of good ideas.
One out of how many ideas?
I mean, out of 1 out of 100. That's good enough. That's more than what most people will get.
Oh, boy. Wow. All right. Taylor wants to know, rumor is there will not be any, and I don't know how old this question is, but rumor is there will not be any tapings after Slammiversary. It's going to be a reaction video before and after matches air for 2 weeks. Tapings will start again in Windsor. If true, do you think they're resetting all the storylines?
Yeah, I heard that rumor. I don't know if they're resetting all storylines or just taking a little break. And people have always mentioned this in wrestling before, like, hey, why don't we have like seasons like NFL, NHL, all that kind of stuff? So I think it would be a good reset if we did that. I don't know if we're going to reset all storylines and just start from scratch. It'll be hard to pick up, like, hey, if we're in a heated feud at Slammiversary and let's say, for example, new Impact, world champion is crowned. Well, you don't get to hear from him for 3 weeks. That's going to be tough, So, I mean,
again, because we had that situation where Cage got injured, and you guys had to book around that.
Yeah, I mean, same thing, and that was kind of tough to book around because you don't foresee injuries, but when injuries happen, you make the best out of it, and you just go with the flow. But yeah, I don't think there'll be a storyline reset. Like, hey, nothing happened before this. Like, kind of like when they did in WCW that one time, where they're like, it's the what was it, the new blood versus the
veterans,
yeah, whatever it was, right? I don't think you're going to see that at all.
All right, the last question, and then we'll wrap things up here. This one comes from Chuck. What do you remember from both of your X Division title runs? Do you have any funny stories about the belt or being a champion?
I don't. Like, man, that was like a horrible last question. I'm so bad at this with funny stories. I don't. I really don't, Dennis. I mean, This is a bad last question. Is there like one more question that we could end on?
No, I mean, come on. You carrying the belt, I mean, as an X Division champion, any
Yeah,
stories?
so I mean, my first X Division title run, I won it in 2004. I remember getting down. At the time we were filming at the fairgrounds in Nashville, and we were in this gauntlet match. And Jerry Lynn was the agent at the time, and he says, "All right, you're in this gauntlet match." I'm like, "All right, cool." He's like, "You're one of the last like 4 guys in the match." I'm like, "All right, cool." I'm like, "Who's going over?" And they're like, "You are." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, they're making you the X Division champion today." I'm like, "What?" Like, I couldn't believe it, right? So it came down to me and Red and all that kind of stuff, and that happened like how it happened. And they had me in the feud with AJ and stuff, and then then I lost it like whatever it was 6 months later or whatever. And after that, nothing happened with me, and it was like kind of weird. And then I had the new character of the Maple Leaf Muscle looking like Scott Steiner, and it was almost like the same thing. Like all of a sudden one day, they're like, I show up to the arena and they're like, "All right, you're going to come out and cash your, Feast or Fired briefcase in on Jay Lethal and win the title." And I'm like, "Okay, thanks for the heads up." Like that's just how it happened. And then, no funny stories whatsoever. I mean, I just remember both times when I won the X Division title, they kind of told me that day. And, I'll tell you one thing. When you're, and I don't mean to sound like I'm complaining, but when you're a champion carrying around a belt, that sucks because you have your life packed into the carry-on briefcase that you can bring on in your backpack and stuff. All the stuff because you don't like checking bags. I don't like checking bags because I don't want the airlines to lose them. And when you put an extra belt in there, you're like, "Ah, man!" And when that bag goes through the metal detector or the screening, they always open it up and it always adds to your. So I mean, to be a champion, it sucks because when you're trying to get to the airport and all that kind of stuff, and they're looking through your stuff and everything. And I remember one time this guy was like, he took the belt and I could see him through the little partitions, and he was like, "Hold on, I'll be right back with this." And I don't know what he was doing. And he went to the back and you could see him like kind of showing it to his buddies and all that kind of stuff. Like, "Hey, look at this championship belt." And I'm like, "Come on, guys, man, I got to catch a flight. Like, what are you guys doing? You guys are supposed to be the TSA. Like, what's going on here?" But I don't have any funny stories. I mean, I don't know what he's looking for. Ask him to retweet me for next time. And then I'll try to, find a different funny story, I guess. I don't know.
All right. Well, you'll have to think about. Speaking of retweet, let's promote some stuff here real quick. I just tagged you in a tweet. You've got to go listen to this. We are doing a new podcast, and I don't think we talked about much here because it was developed between our hiatus. Myself, Dave Chris from OVE, Jason Kindle, former MLB player, 15 years, 3-time All-Star. We do a show called Wrestling with Sports. Do you like that name?
Wrestling with Sports. I think that's a great name. What was your names that you didn't come up with? Because I know you probably had a list of 10.
Nope, that was it.
You're like, "Yeah, wrestling." That was it?
That was
Who
it.
came up with that? You or Dave?
I did.
And they were like, "Yeah, book it. Wrestling with Sports. Great."
I think part of it is they didn't have to do any of the work, so they were like, "That's great." I could have called it Playing with Dookie, and they'd have been like, "Book it."
Hey, do you remember when we were coming up with a name for the Wrestling Perspective podcast?
Oh yeah.
Like, we were going back and forth all day, and there was a couple of names I really liked. Like can you guess what my favorite one was? But we couldn't do it because I think there's already a podcast by the name of it. Curtain Jerkers, yes. That's what it was. I'm like, "Oh, that's perfect, man. Curtain Jerkers." So those that don't know, a curtain jerker is the first match on the show. First match out of the curtain pretty much. So I love that one. I'm like, "Curtain Jerkers, man, let's be that." And then there was already a podcast, which I don't even know if they're around or who does it or whatever the case may be. But
that's golden.
I love the Wrestling with Sports. Wrestling with Sports.
Because it's kind of a sports show, kind of a wrestling show. It's more topical, but we're doing a fantasy league, and I kind of said over, text to the two guys, "Look, I'm going to cut a scathing wrestling style promo on both of you guys and put it out on Twitter. Enjoy it." And I just tagged you in the tweet, so when we hang up, I gotta have you watch it and then retweet it, so the fans who don't follow you can see it. But I want you to grade my promo.
Oh, are we doing it on a scale of like 1 to 10, or are we doing like A plus, A minus, B plus?
Let's do A pluses. Tell me what I did wrong, because it was my first one take.
Okay.
And I posted it. So, but Wrestling with Sports, let's go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. You can get this podcast. You can get Wrestling with Sports there. Double promo right there. Subscribe to both podcasts. We definitely appreciate it. That's how we grow. Don't forget to go to whatforapparel.com/WPP. Buy some shirts. We don't take any profits. We give our portion of proceeds to rainbowconnection.org. I was tweeted yesterday, maybe, by somebody that was going to buy a shirt. So thank you guys so much. Ringside Wrestling app, great little app. Josh Matthews is working with them. I'm doing some shows over there. Make sure you go follow that. Pete, Blue Chew. Go to bluechew.com. Use the promo code Perspective. With that promo code, Petey himself personally will send you an order for free.
Yeah. The only catch on that one is you just have to pay the $5 shipping and handling. I can't cover that.
You'll do anything for love, but you won't do that.
Yep.
But
meatloaf.
There you go. So go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. Wrong promo. Sorry. Go to BlueChew.com. Use the promo code Perspective. Get that free order. Just pay $5. It's made with the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know it works. It's done online, so there's no awkward doctor's visits. It helps us out major league, so you do that. Make sure you help the feed out, you help the show out. We take the money and put it back into the show. We don't take extravagant trips. We don't go to 5-star restaurants on your hard-earned money, although we should. We put it back into the show, as I said, and it helps grows it. So make sure you support our advertisers. And finally, Fightful.com. They've been breaking news for 3+ years now. They've launched a premium service, which I'm a big fan of. Sean Ross Sapp over there, phenomenal. Go to Fightful Select. Fightful Select brings you dozens of podcasts all the time. Every month, 205 Live, NXT, NXT UK, Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan, NWA stuff, Q&A shows, alternative and dark match commentary, and they're still breaking news. So go over there immediately, support Fightful, because you can hear the show over there, Fightful, a day early. Pete, what do you have to promote?
Not much. I know we have our big Slammiversary pay-per-view coming up July 7th in Texas. That's about it. We got TV tapings coming up in Windsor, and I'm still really looking forward to Chikara coming up in October, where we have the King of Trios, myself, Jordan Grace, and Scott Steiner.
I still want to get Quackenbush and Grace on the show.
Oh, you know what? I got to ask Quack. So, we'll talk about that.
All right, guys, this week's Wrestling Perspective. Enjoy your 4th of July, your Canadian Day, as the Canadians would say.
No, Canada Day.
Canadian Day.
Okay.
Enjoy Canada Day, as America's Top Hat would say. How's that?
Yeah, perfect.
All right, Pete, this was the show.
All right, man. Have a good one.